Good morning, everybody. It's Tanya Williams here, author of A Child-Free, Happily Ever After. Now, as you are aware, I have been doing a number of what we call child-free choice conversations, and I'm continuing that series this morning, and I'm very lucky to have with me Elissa Jewell. Elissa is from Melbourne, and good morning, Elissa.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Tanya.
Great to have you on. The whole point of this series is to get to share stories of women all over the world and their choices, why they came to the decisions that they have about having or not having children. And, I love having these conversations and hearing everyone's story because everyone has a different story. So it's great to get different perspectives as well. Can we start, Elissa, with perhaps you sharing a bit about your background and your story so we get a bit of an idea of where everything's at with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I think you would have read when we first had a conversation, Tanya, my background is quite interesting. And my parents have given me a fair bit of incentive, I guess, over my lifetime not to want to have children. The main reason being is my mother in particular was adopted when she was young. So she never knew her parents. And I think her parenting style was heavily influenced by that. So when I grew up, I wasn't particularly in a loving household, if that makes sense. So my mother, not having known her own mother, I don't think she received that really gentle, loving, caring sort of, parental guidance that she needed. And as a result, I didn't get it either. So I think there was a lack of, I suppose, what's the word? There was no maternal instinct there that was passed on, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was quite a cool relationship that I had with my mum. And then when my parents divorced, when I was quite young, my father remarried, and he was actually accused of sexual assault on my stepsisters at the time.
Wow.
So he's actually sex registry, and for the rest of his life, I believe he's not allowed to be around a minor unsupervised. So there's that. And then in addition to that, when my mother remarried, my stepfather was also sexually abusive towards me.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, my mother never really believed me. She thought that I was trying to be. She perceived that I was trying to rob her of her happiness. And I guess it's taken me quite a few years to sort of look at it from this perspective. By no means am I saying that I believe that what she did was right, but if I look at it from her perspective, she'd never had any security in her entire life.
Yeah.
So maybe the reason she was so worried that about what I was saying from her, like from how it reflected on her, was because it meant that she didn't have a house anymore. She was back to being an orphan of some kind. So maybe that's what was going through her head. But
Yeah.
I guess long story short, none of these events really inspired me to have my own children. And I've just never really felt as if children were on the cards for me anyway. It's not something that I ever grew up imagining.
Yeah.
So.
Can I ask, Elissa, has your mother or your father ever said to you that you should have children, or when are you going to have children, or has there been any pressure from them in any way, shape or form to do that given the circumstances?
None at all. So I haven't spoken to my mother since I was about 15 years old when I left the home.
Yeah.
And my father has mentioned a few times many years ago, when you have children, and I've just kind of laughed at him and just said, look, I'm sorry, but the name is going to die with me.
Yeah.
Really quite a harsh way of saying it, but I've never felt as if I was ever going to continue the family line.
Did you, I suppose growing up, but even I suppose recently, now that you are older, have you, I suppose, been subject to or around other women, and seeing their relationships with their parents to see obviously how different that is, and what it, shouldn't say what it should look like, because every family is different. But has that made you rethink that in any way? Because you can say, well, this is how, you know, a healthy relationship may look.
Yeah, I've been around some incredible women, like older women who I look up to and I think of as a mother figure, or very motherly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting to contrast the relationships of my friends with those the relationship that I had. And it's hard sometimes not to get jealous, because you look at that and you think, well, why didn't I have that relationship? Like some of my friends, you know, seeing their parents almost on a daily basis, going to events with them, you know, they're a really huge part of their life. And I've just never had that. So it feels strange, but in some way as well, I'm also kind of glad that I had the experience that I did, because I get to look at life a little bit differently, I suppose.
And I think that's the thing, we all have our own experiences, don't we? We've all had different upbringings, not saying that one's better than the other, but they're just different. We've had our own unique experiences. We have our own unique relationships with our parents. And it is very hard, I think, sometimes to look at someone else's life and go, oh, I wish that was me, and have that little bit of jealousy, or, geez, why did I miss out on that? But it sounds like you've certainly haven't let that hold you back in life, and it sounds like you've got a really healthy attitude towards life and what it is you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the lessons that I've learned have been incredibly hard, but they've been valuable. So I don't look at my past and feel like a victim at all. I think you really need to learn how to take things in your stride, and particularly as you do get older and you start having a career and you have your own relationships. I've kind of used my parents as a guide to what not to do. So in a way, they're the other way. So for example, she has very materialistic tendencies. She's very much about image and, you know, what other people think. Whereas I couldn't be more different to that. I think integrity is a higher value for me now, which is, I guess, it's not the ideal way to come about, you know, a positive thing, but you can change anything that happens in your life.
Look, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do that, but I love the fact that you've said, I'm not going to be a victim. I'm just going to live my life in a way that I think is right. And exactly that. I just said, you're using your mum as this, well, how not to do it. And I don't want to be like that. And I don't think it matters how you get there, as long as you get there. And I think that attitude and that mindset that you have around this actually seems really, really healthy and really positive. And I think that's fabulous. I take my hat off to you, because, you know, not a lot of women could have that strength, and they could certainly, you know, play the victim card and poor me, and this is the horrible things have happened. But it takes a lot of integrity, it takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to come through it like you have, and still have this, you know, healthy, happy life. Can you tell me a bit more about your relationship? So you have a partner, are you guys married? Like, what is it that you do for a job as well? I'd love to get more around that.
Okay, so I have a partner. We're coming into, I think, our 15th year now. Enough that I know what the number is. So we've been together. I was 19 when we met. I'm now 34. So 15 years. And he and I have the best relationship. We're very similar, but different in the ways that it matters most, I guess. So when we first got together, I think Adam proposed within about 6 months. But being very young, and when you accept at that age, you probably don't really understand like what you're getting into as much. But it was like a mutual decision. About 3 months after the original proposal was made, we decided that marriage probably wasn't for us.
Yeah.
So not only am I happy to be without children, I'm also happy to be unmarried.
Yeah.
which is kind of
which is fine. I mean, marriage is just a piece of paper, really. That's all it is. You know, that you've still got your commitment there. You know.
That's it. I mean, we have a mortgage, and I figured that that's probably a bigger commitment in this day and age. Like that's going to be longer. But
Sure.
I think from a relationship perspective, it's personally for me, it doesn't have that sort of air of finality about it. So I think in some way it changes how I approach the relationship, because I know that it's not permanent, that nothing is permanent, I guess.
Yeah.
So then I put more effort into it, because I know that I want him to be around and I want him to be happy. It's not, he's never taken for granted in that way.
Yeah,
so,
which is easy to do in a relationship as well. I know my husband's in the other room, so he might be listening to this, but I know that I do. I mean, I think that's human nature, especially when you've been together for a long time, to take each other for granted. Not that you mean to, it's just the nature of, you know, of how it is. So how early on in your relationship did you have that discussion about, you know, I don't want children?
I think it was very early on, actually. So it would have been within the first year that we were together. I said very, very unequivocally, this is not something that I want. And Adam is happy with that arrangement. So I think we've had conversations about this more recently, and he's indicated that he could go either way. But I suppose the basis of being in a relationship with me would be that you would need to accept that it's not going to happen. So I think he's happy with that.
You know, and I think my husband was very much the same. You know, we had that conversation when we got engaged, and I said, if that's what you want, this is not going to work. I'm not going to have a child for you, your family, or anybody else. And he was always very respectful of that, and said, well, it's your body. He said, at the end of the day, it's your decision. He said, you're the one that has to, you know, go through everything that you need to. And he's always been very respectful of that. And over the years, so we've been married 23 years. But over the years, I've sort of checked in with him time and, you know, occasionally to go, are you still, you know, okay with that? And, you know, and he is. And I think Adam will probably find this as well, is that you do get used to this lifestyle, you know, and having, you know, not having that responsibility and having to spend your weekend at sports games and, you know, all these types of things. And I think you do get used to relationships. So perhaps, you know, if you went, oh, okay, well, I am going to have one, it would be probably a bit of a shock to the system for both of you. And I don't know whether he realises how much different his life would actually be with a child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes when we're out, you know, on the weekend having fun and just doing whatever we want, we'd have that conversation and go, well, you know, we'd never be able to do this. We'd never be able to live the life that we have at the moment, which, you know, we're incredibly happy how we are. So I can't imagine what having a child would look like or feel like. And it's not something that I want to find out either, because it's not like we can try it for a few weeks and then
exactly. Exactly. You know? It's not like buying a pair of shoes or something. You can't just take it back and say, I don't want them anymore.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So some people say, for example, that not having a child is a selfish decision, but I think it's actually the way around for me, because what would be more selfish would be assuming that I would be able to look after a child with my background and with my own you know, my upbringing. Yeah, it would be selfish to assume that I would be able to overcome that and be better than that. But I don't know that I would be. So, you know.
Yeah, look, I don't quite understand the selfish argument that people always use of it. Oh, you're so selfish. And it's just like, hang on, isn't it my life? Aren't I supposed to be doing what's right for me? I'm not sure what part of where selfish comes into that equation. I really struggle with that when people say that. I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm like you. I think it's actually more the other way around, because usually when you ask someone about, oh, do you want kids, it's because mum wants me to have one, or, you know, it's usually someone else that wants it for whatever. I want a little mini version of my husband, or, you know, I'm not saying that all people are like that, but there's usually quite a selfish reason behind it. So I find it quite irritating and frustrating when people use that, oh, you're so selfish argument. I just think it's just null and void.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's far worse to bring someone into the world who isn't loved and cherished and really wanted than it is to
Yeah.
have a child because you feel obligated. So.
Definitely. I think that's that's a big issue that we see in society. And I mean, kids know, you've been through that growing up. You obviously you felt how I suppose unmotherly or like, I suppose what's the right word? Not as nurturing as I suppose as what she should have been as a mother. And you, as a child, you know that, and I think it's important to recognise that, which obviously you do as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me more about, I suppose, your friendship circle and so forth. Do you have a lot of friends that have children? Are they supportive of your choice, or do you hear maybe you should have one and you're missing out and all those types of things? Like, do you have a lot of friends that have kids or don't have kids?
Yeah. Most of my friends don't have kids. The ones that do are incredibly supportive, and they would be the first person to say, don't have children if you don't want them. They are 100% behind it, and
Yep.
I think that speaks volumes about them and their ability to see things from other people's perspective, which is awesome. But
Yeah.
The friends that I do have who do have children, they're amazing parents. Like, they're absolutely doting, really, really kind and gentle, and they care so much about how their parenting affects their children. And some of them, one friend in particular seems like she was destined to be a mother. Like, she just
Yeah.
has that ability to care and to give and to be selfless in that respect. So I really do appreciate and love that they are doing what they want, and they've grown their family, and they invest so much of themselves into it.
Yeah.
One has ever really told me that I should be having them, or that I should be thinking about having them, which is fantastic. So they're very tolerant of different opinions, which is really great. So
Well, I
yeah.
think that's what being a good friend is, right? I mean, I've got lots of friends with kids, and I love them. I love their kids. I've got friends without kids, and I think at the end of the day, it's just about accepting each other's choices in life. And I've always been like, I don't care what you do. I don't want to, if you want to move to the middle of Australia and dye hair purple and dance around to jungle music, like, I don't care as long as you're happy. And I think that's where good, solid friendships are important, is to go, well, whatever it is that you want and you need in your life, I'm there for you as your friend. And unfortunately not everyone has that, or is subject to what I'd classify it as bullying or peer pressure to some degree of we've all done it, it's now your turn type thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that I haven't experienced that. But I guess also surround yourself with people who you love and who love you back. So it's great that I can say that, because it just means I've chosen my friends very well.
Yeah, I agree. And those who aren't, bye-bye. So what is it you do for work, Elissa?
I'm self-employed. I'm a sports and conditioning, strength and conditioning coach. I'm a sports nutritionist. I've been like a trainer for nearly 10 years now.
Yep.
So my passion is obviously strength, both physically and mentally. But I think a lot of what I do is sort of passing on a bit of that ballsiness to other women and other people. So I think it's really fascinating to see how some people's lives and their mindset shifts when they realise what they're capable of. The gym isn't just, to me, about lifting heavy things and putting them back down again. It's about practicing that ability to see how far you can go, to see what you can do.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I think it's.
I think that's I love the fact that the way you talk about it, and being strength, and not just physical strength but mental strength, because mindset is such an important part of everything that we do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's nothing that I can think of that you could do on a daily basis that's going to challenge your perception of what you're capable of in a sort of controlled environment. So it's a really good way to learn how to be a little bit more aggressive in the rest of your life, and to say what you believe in and what you want to do, and to go out there and do it.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I love that. So I suppose in that role, have you ever had clients say to you, oh, you know, why don't you have children, or are you thinking of having children, or has that even been brought up in that sort of client relationship at all?
Sometimes. Some of my clients know my opinion about children because we get along quite well, and you know, the discussion between sets is interesting. I've really only gotten a strange or even a negative response from clients when they've been a lot older. So one of my clients, who was in his 50s, didn't seem very impressed about the fact that I didn't want children. He couldn't seem to understand. Yeah, so and it wasn't as if he insulted me or said, you know, that's horrible, but you could see when I said I was never having children, you could see the look on his face as if to say, why on earth would you not have kids? Like, why would you think that? But aside from that, no, I've never had any, I guess, negativity about my choices, which is really good.
That's really good, and you're lucky that you haven't.
Absolutely. And I think it's getting better because people such as yourself and the women that you speak to, who are really kind of flying the flag and saying, you know, there are other options here. That you don't have to have children. You know, it's okay.
You can be happy.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is probably quite a big question, but do you think that women are happier with or without children?
I don't know if I could answer that question unless I'd had children.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not, I don't think anyone can answer that question, because if you've had children, then you would probably have a different perspective than if you hadn't, but you can't. It's kind of a Schrodingers cat sort of question, really, isn't it? Like,
well, exactly, it is. And I suppose you can be happy and unhappy with children, and unhappy or happy without children. So I asked the question, you know, on purpose, just to, I suppose, to get a different perspective. But it is, obviously, it's very hard to say, you know, either way, because everyone has different circumstances. But it's interesting. I've had, you know, friends over the years who have had kids and have said to me, oh, I'm really, you know, envious of your life. And it's like, but hang on a moment, you chose to have the 3 kids and have the life that you've got, just as I've chosen to have the life that I've got. So I think sometimes there can be that jealousy, I suppose, is one word, or you know, being envious of someone else's life and what they have. But I certainly think that you can be happy either way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes it can bring a divide between 2 groups of women. So the women that have had children, the women that haven't. There's an assumption there that neither person is going to understand where the other one's coming from, if that makes sense. Like, I was doing something last year specifically for mothers. So I was talking about nutrition and how to eat healthily, you know, despite the many different things you have to do during the day and how busy you would be. A lot of the women that came and spoke to me after the talk, the first thing that they said to me was, how many children do you have? And I'm like, I don't. And then I think the implication there was that if I hadn't had children myself, then I don't know what I'm talking about, and I can't really comment. You know, why would I be a childless woman at an event for mothers? I think that really sort of struck for me that some people just aren't ready to think of it in a different way.
And all you're
everyone's
doing is
busy.
coming from a different perspective and saying, well, this is a one way to do it. Well, yeah, but yeah, being the non-mother, it's like, well, what do you know? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think my credibility, as far as they were concerned, was not there, as long
Yeah.
as I was speaking irrelevant around children. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. And yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? And sometimes, that just comes with the territory.
Absolutely.
Now, we're going to end shortly, but before we do, I wanted to ask you, are there one or two tips that you can share with maybe someone that's watching that
Mhm.
if they are struggling to come to that decision as to, I'm not sure if I do want kids or not, that obviously, your background influenced your decision, but are there one or two things you would suggest to them to go, hey, maybe do this, or here's some advice that from me?
Yeah, I I could probably only really give the advice of, if you're not sure, it's probably better not to have children,
Yeah.
because like growing up in a family which is very broken and dysfunctional, and honestly feeling many times like, as a child, that I was unwanted and that I was a burden. So I think if you really aren't sure about having children, please don't have them. Like, because could potentially be you could potentially be bringing children up into a place where they may not be given the best
Yeah.
upbringing. So if there's nothing, I think, lost if you wait a little bit longer,
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit more time could potentially give you the answer that you're looking for. But I
Yeah.
mean, once you have it, that's it. Can't unchoose that. So
And that's the thing, it's
um,
such a big decision, isn't it? It's it's a life-changing decision, and you really have to be sure that that's what you want for your life, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. So yeah,
Is there
don't bring
anything,
up.
sorry,
Sorry,
you go.
I was just going to say, like, don't bring up a new person or a human soul in a place where it's not going to be feeling welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Is there anything else that you want to mention or bring up at all, Elissa?
No, I think that's pretty much it. But I really wanted to thank you, Tanya, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this, and to giving that opportunity to so many other women as well. Um, I think people such as yourself make my life easier, because
Oh,
you're help you're helping to sort of spread the message that it's totally okay, you know. And so thank you for that. I just wanted to say I appreciate what you're doing.
thank you. I mean, that really means the world to me, and this is why I'm doing this. This is exactly why I wrote the book, because I think more women needed to have that voice or that opportunity to say, "Hang on a minute, I have made a different decision. I'm still a woman. I'm still, entitled to live my life how I want to live that." And I think I'm very lucky in that I'm a very strong, independent person. So I've always been able to stand up and say, no, this is what I want. But there's a lot of women out there that aren't. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because I want to give everybody a voice. I want everyone to
Yeah,
share their stories. I love stories. Like, I just love hearing people's experiences, their own unique stories. And I think that's why I'm doing this series, is to share that. So thank you for being open and vulnerable and brave, and sharing that story, because other women will get to see that and may have similar experience to you, or can relate to it in some way, or it can have a really positive impact on someone's life. So I just as much thanks goes back to people like you who are willing to do this and share these stories, because it's all about sharing this with as many women in the world as we can, so we can change that judgment, that criticism, to that acceptance, and saying, hey, it's okay. I've got you, girl. I'm here for you as your fellow woman, to go, it's okay, and as long as you're happy, that's the most important thing in life. So thank you.
yeah. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well,
Such
you
a
have a
pleasure.
fabulous rest of the day, and I look forward to sharing the story out there, and perhaps one day we'll actually get to meet in real life.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Tanya.
No worries. Thank you very much, Elissa.
Bye.
Bye.